Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of TERI and International Solar Alliance, I am delighted to welcome you all to this special dialogue on youth driving the energy transition. We have with us global leaders and policy champions in terms of Dr. Vibha Dhawan and Mr. Ashish Khanna, Director General TERI and Director General International Solar Alliance. And we also have our remarkable young innovators from Global South. Before going to the session, I'll make a context-setting presentation. Please join us. Thank you. So let me begin by briefly framing where the energy transition stands today in India and why youth will be the center of every transformational shift. Next slide, please. Yes. So India believes deeply that climate action must be ambitious, inclusive, and cooperative. Over the last decade, India has demonstrated that renewable energy can scale at speed and at a globally lowest cost, even in a complex emerging economy. And as we can see in this particular slide, in last 10 years, India has achieved drastically in terms of renewable energy. Yeah, this one. Thank you. So India recently achieved 51% of non-fossil fuel capacity, mostly led by solar energy. Right now we have around 127 gigawatt of solar installation in the country. Now this gigawatt scale deployment creates an ecosystem of opportunity, an ecosystem that is being built and managed by young professionals. This year, adding close to 30 gigawatt of clean capacity in just 6 months sets the pace for our discussion. And this brings us to our discussion theme. Next slide, please. That is youth, innovation and technology. India's youth are not just installing solar panels, they are redefining how they work. But most powerful force shaping the next decade is force of youth. Youth are designing smarter, faster, more inclusive solutions, from diagnostic apps to AI-enabled RE forecasting to community solar to micro-entrepreneurship models. Yeah, next slide, please. International Solar Alliance is working for South-South collaboration, investing directly in youth talent, and these are some of the programs through which they are working on skilling and entrepreneurship on young people in countries from Global South. And next slide, please. So this is the discussion theme for today's session. The session brings to my final slide, the youth, innovation and technology. What policy, what are the international collaborations that are needed, and what ISAs are doing and what other young leaders from Global South are doing, and how we can learn from each other. With this context-setting presentation, to the one video message. This particular video message shows India's journey in recent past on renewable energy and how India accelerated renewable energy in last 10 years. Can we have the video message, please?
India, a nation of over 1.4 billion people, is among the fastest growing economies in the world, with a steady GDP growth of around 7% year after year. Yet, even as our development accelerates, our per capita carbon emissions remain among the lowest globally, just about 2 tons per person, nearly 30% of the G20 average. India stands as a symbol of progress driven by responsibility and a clear focus on clean, green growth. Recognizing the urgency of the climate challenge, India had submitted ambitious nationally determined contributions. These are not just commitments, they are milestones of climate leadership.
Our aim is one sun, one world, one grid. We must work towards ensuring availability of clean energy from a worldwide grid everywhere at all times. This is the whole of the world approach that India's values stand for.
India's renewable energy journey is transforming the global energy landscape. Today, nearly 50% of India's total installed power capacity comes from non-fossil fuel sources. Renewables already power close to one-third of our electricity generation, and this share continues to rise as more solar, wind, and hydro capacity is integrated into the grid. Clean energy is no longer the alternative, it is becoming the backbone of India's growth.
Today we are ranked third in the solar capacity and fourth in overall renewable installed capacity.
India's energy transition is powered by a strong and coordinated policy framework, supported by both the center and the states. Key national schemes are driving this progress on the ground. The PM Kusum scheme is helping farmers install solar pumps and decentralize plants. The PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, launched in 2024, is enabling 1 crore households to install rooftop solar systems and receive up to 300 units of free electricity every month. To support large-scale battery storage projects targeting up to 30 gigawatt-hours of capacity by 2026. Alongside this, pumped hydro projects, nearly 96 gigawatts of potential, are being developed to enhance grid flexibility and resilience. Extending its leadership beyond borders, India, together with France, established the International Solar Alliance, a coalition of over 120 countries dedicated to promoting affordable solar energy worldwide. India is helping countries across the global south harness the power of the sun for inclusive and sustainable growth. Institutions like the Energy and Resources Institute are critical to India's clean energy journey. The Terry's Institution of Energy Transition in Hyderabad is a vital hub, driving research, capacity building, and policy insights for the energy sector. Terry continues to foster innovation and collaboration, directly supporting India's renewable integration and transition goals.
At TERI, we are proud to contribute through scientific research, advanced modeling, and policy design that supports both national and state level transition. Our studies like the India Electricity Transition Pathways to 2050 help shape India's long-term decarbonization strategy, while regional work in states like Kerala and Madhya Pradesh demonstrates how sustainable growth can align with net zero goals. And as the world convenes at COP30, our message is clear. India's transition is powered not only by technology and policy, but by its youth, the innovators and leaders shaping a cleaner, more equitable energy future for all.
From being a developing economy to becoming a clean energy powerhouse, India's journey is one of determination, scale, and inspiration. With a target of 500 gigawatts of non-fossil capacity and over 1 billion tons of CO2 emissions avoided by 2030, India continues to lead the world toward a cleaner, more resilient, and equitable energy future.
Thank you. Now we move straight to our fireside chat between Director General Terry and Director General International Solar Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the excellent presentation and also setting the stage of what we are going to discuss. Now, needless to say, when we talk of India's commitment to renewable energy, and when I talk of India, it represents in a way the developing part of the world or the global south. If we look at the growth in these countries, I'll say that energy insecurity has been one of the major reasons for the slow growth. Because unfortunately, we don't have much of fossil fuel, and therefore every drop of fossil fuel or energy, it was to be imported, and that added cost to whatever we were doing. And also at the village level, the rural parts of these countries, they were starving for energy, and with the result, you look at what was happening to the cooking and therefore the health of the women. The indoor air pollution, which was such a big problem, which still exists because wood is the cheapest source, or rather, you don't have to pay anything, you just collect it. But you don't realize what kind of impacts it's having on the health and as well as the ecosystem. Now, let's also look at what is it that the solar energy or the renewable energy is going to provide us. Fortunately, these countries are blessed with plenty of sunshine. And with the result, the production cost of solar energy is comparatively lower than I should say, Europe or many other countries, because there you don't have that much of sunshine. So that opens up new doors for us. And the other thing is that we talk of development. And development, we have to construct for the first time. It's not that you have to break the infrastructure and rebuild it. It is that you are constructing it for the first time. And therefore that gives us opportunities, whether it is buildings, whether it is treating the waste, and so many other things that go green as much as possible. And that is what is also sustainability. Now, what are the various ingredients of success? First of all, it becomes that are the government policies aligning? Do the government want that we go solar? Because some stage you also want incentives. These technologies are not free. You have to invest something, and therefore, do we have the capex? And therefore, you need government policies in that direction. The second is, do we have the technologies? And let me also tell you why all of you, the youth is so important, because you are going to be innovators. You know what kind of technology is required. It is not we have all the solutions. We have some solutions, but more solutions are to be developed by innovators like you. And therefore, it is you have to think. And also, I'll say, many of us, we have lots of experience, but we are a little outdated. Now, how to use AI in various technologies? What is it? And it's also where the shoe pinches. That is where you try to innovate and look into how it's going to work. So therefore, don't undermine yourself. Your importance is great to develop technologies for the future. And third is the entire ecosystem. And when I talk of ecosystem, I'm very proud of that Government of India along with French government took this initiative of establishing International Solar Alliance. Because this is a very important forum. You are looking at 120 plus countries. And these countries, when you talk of partnership, that partnership essentially means that as partners, they tell you what are our difficulties, where are the needs, what is it we would like to implement, and where is it, because technology, if it is developed in one country, it has scope to be deployed in another country. In most cases, it is not plug and play. It is somewhere that you also have to build capacities. You have to fine-tune the technology to suit that particular ecosystem. And that particular role is being played by ISA under the dynamic leadership of Mr. Khanna. And really speaking, in last few months, basically he's working day and night looking at how will we amplify, what is it that the countries require, and we come up to their expectations. Capacity building, I should say, at all stages is a very important component. It is not capacities of those who are operating a particular thing. Suppose you have developed put a solar photovoltaics and something goes wrong. you need entrepreneurs who will repair it. You want someone that also defines that this is how it can be used. So from all level, policymakers should know what kind of things it can do. Then the next level is those who are deploying this, and then are the users as well as the technicians who will take care of this entire ecosystem. So capacity building at various stages, and that is again, ISA has taken that responsibility in a big way, and they are thinking of the capacity building, spoken hub model, and so on, and I'm sure it's going to work. And that also involves incubating new technologies that are being developed by you. So of course I have said lots about ISA, but since we are very fortunate to have Mr. Khanna with us, he's leaving today evening, and thank you very much for being with us. What role do you see for youth in energy transition?
Thank you, Dr. Dhawan. Wonderful to be part of this. And I already feel 10, 20 years younger sitting with all the young people. There are so many things about solar that make it very amenable to youth. First, it is a technology that is getting innovated every year. And that requires, I was discussing 2 days back, if you are in high school, in a lot of developing countries like India and China, there are solar panels on all high schools, not only to give energy, but for the students to start thinking, what all can we do? To run applications, to run pilots, because that's what unleashes the creativity. Second, we realize, even though young people want to know and do a lot of things, they often don't have the platforms and the information. So we want to launch an ISA Academy, which is going to be a YouTube channel and an AI channel, where whether you are in Belém, Malawi, Cuba, or a village of India, you must have all the videos, all the information on solar available to everyone. This is the real power of technology. And this is our commitment that by end of next year, we have started a YouTube channel. Go and like it. It's ISA YouTube channel. But we are also now trying to get an AI technology partner that based on a ChatGPT, when you ask a question, it will create a learning module for you with a video, because so much of information is already available in different languages, because it must be done in the local language. The third element is, if you have a bright idea and you want to actually change the world and your country and your community, can ISA provide you wings by giving you power? For that, we have a program called Solar X. What's X? The X is about innovation. In every continent, we run a challenge where young people give their ideas. We started with Africa 3 years back. 20 African youth were given a $15,000 grant to build their idea into an enterprise. We connect them to venture capital, to mentors, so that they can become the next Amazon. We did it in Asia Pacific, including India. And yesterday, we announced the winners of 10 startups from Latin America as well. 9 countries, 6 led by women entrepreneurs. So it's very important for all of you to think about what is the idea that you have. Think about a small business enterprise by which you can actually work. The fourth element is, how do you get capability beyond the YouTube channel and others in getting trained? So in a lot of our countries, 17 as of now, in their best universities, we have created a center of excellence in which we put equipments for testing, measurement, and training. Because the jobs will, in the future, are going to happen on green sectors. Let me give you an idea about Africa. We just finished a study, it's available online if you go to ISA website, which says that in next 10 to 15 years, between 4.2 million to 7.5 million green jobs will come in Africa, depending on how fast Africa can do solar electrification. So that's the range. Power of social media, startups, capacity building, schools, universities. That engagement is important because this is a classic industry of disruption. And disruption only happens from youth. You have to challenge the status quo on a daily basis, and the opportunities are endless.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm really quite impressed when you spoke about solar eggs, because that is what is needed. My other question to you is that, of course, what his presentation has clearly indicated the way India is growing. We are very bullish in adopting solar energy or renewable energy as a whole. Now, which aspects of India's renewable energy journey, whether it is policies, financing models, or technologies, that perhaps can be replicated in other member countries? And also the examples of other member countries which can be brought back to India. Because what we require, it's not my growth, it is our growth. And ISA can definitely play a very important role in ensuring that it's the global south which really grows at a speed which the world should admire. And it is for their growth as well. It's more for their growth.
So that's a very interesting question. Some of you may not know, because you are not Indian here, that India moved from almost nothing 10-12 years back, almost like 2 megawatts, to 120 gigawatts, 120,000 megawatt of solar in 10 years, becoming the world's third largest solar player. Now, Dr. Dhawan's question is, what is it that others can learn? Why can't it happen in Latin America? Why can't it happen in Africa? And, Japan also has big ambitions. The first part of all of this is, you need different parts of jigsaw puzzle to come together, what I call ecosystem. What does it all mean? Let me tell you a couple of things. First, there has to be a very strong political push to make solar and renewable as one of the key for energy security. The Indian Prime Minister made a target which was 20,000 megawatt or 20 gigawatt to 500 gigawatt. He increased it by 25 times. And then he gave all the policy and regulations that are going to support, including building new institutions that have experts that can actually manage that transition. Then there was a question of training. Hundreds of thousands of people were trained in universities, vocational training institutions on what are the skills that will be needed for this transformation. But most of it is done by private sector. So that meant whether startups, whether I spoke about, whether small private sector, and then also large private sector. Some of the private sector companies in India have grown 100 times in solar in just last 10 years. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have grown all of this. And finally, they need to get money. Money should not be taken only from outside the country. 90% of all financing in big countries who have done solar happens by local banks. And therefore, there's local currency financing. So there's a mix of lot of things which is important in India, but frankly, the story is same, whether you look at Vietnam and other countries, and that is the kind of skill we want to take to all our member countries, that how can we help you put the jigsaw together. But there are one or two examples I want to highlight even more. One of them is because most developing countries do not have food security. And India has now a big program that is replacing 4 million solar pumps, 4 million diesel pumps and electricity pumps to solar pumps. Why? Because solar-based pump costs 1/3 and can actually do the same job reducing the subsidy of the government and being beneficial to the farmer, because in India the farmer gets supply in the night when nobody wants, and therefore he has to go to the field in the night, but the sun is actually in the day, so he can actually get all the power what he really wants. It's a win-win situation. That program needs to go to Latin America and Africa in a very big way, because the needs for solarization of agriculture, majority of developing countries in Africa and in Caribbean waste 30% of agriculture produce because there are no cold storage. Now the cold storage technology for solar is so easily available. That is also a very important idea. Now what can India learn from others? Lots of things. But one thing I will tell you is, I worked in Nigeria for a long time, and Nigerians are big entrepreneurs. The mini grids are going by leaps and bounds in Nigeria, because faraway places cannot have all the wires and the distribution system being taken. So how to do private sector led mini grids in Nigeria is a skill that not only Africa but even India can learn as well. So
Thank you. That's very interesting. And the one point I just wanted to add, what is working in India, the moment you go for solar pumping, then farmer can make the decision whether he would like to put the electricity back into the grid and earn more. And therefore, what we talk of changing the crops, which are not in water guzzlers, that is also working, because then farmer decides how much water he should use. So that's a very good initiative in increasing farmers' income as well. So thank you, and of course we'll hear to the young entrepreneurs, their journey and the work which they are doing. So I'll first request or introduce the young innovator, Denfeng Zhu, I hope I'm pronouncing it all right, who is from China and working in Japan. So therefore you have first-hand experience both from China and Japan. And of course, you come from a country with one of the strongest solar innovation ecosystem. And what inspired your clean tech innovations, and what gaps in the energy sector were you trying to address?
Thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me here. And secondly, I'm very inspired by what India is doing. The installed capacity. I'm sure ISA is doing very important job, and I'm very excited and curious about the YouTube channel for the capacity building. Also, it's exciting news. So come back to the question: which kind of clean technology inspire me, and which kind of gap I want to address? So firstly, I just graduated from United Nations University. My major is more about policy. So I want to ask here, anyone work on technology or technique? None of them? Anyone raise a hand? No? Okay, then we don't have a technology person here. So what inspired me, I want to share several cases. The first one is from Japan. We talk about the solar panel. So in Japan, where I live in a coastal area, and it's kind of a tourist site. So you know the light right on the road. So in Japan, they installed the solar panel on that light, so it can have the energy supplied by itself, and it kind of very inspiring, because I never saw that in other places. They also installed a fan here, which can produce electricity from the wind. So it's wind power. So that's from Japan. And from Germany, I did my internship with UFCCC in Germany, Bonn, where they installed solar panel on their roof. So it's kind of a government initiative, and the citizens can choose to join or not by themselves. And they installed the panel, and they got the free electricity for themselves. They also produce more electricity for the neighborhood. And I kind of and the same project is happening in Ghana. because my research fellow from the United Nations University, his research is about the roof installed solar panel, but in Ghana. So it's very common. And another innovative case I want to share is from Zambia. So when I worked for UFCCC, I collected the innovative case study for adaptation in Africa. So in Zambia, as you guys already said, they use the solar panel for irrigation, like the solar pump. And it's very helpful. And they design that equipment for small scale farmers. And it's helped because the farmers can, pay it for several years. They have no need to pay for that in one time. So it's kind of affordable. And with the negative impact from climate change, like droughts happen more frequent in Africa. So that's why it inspired me. And related to which gap I try to address, I would say it's the local solution for the renewable energy, because the renewable energy sounds very simple, like just put solar panel or produce the electricity from the wind or water. It sounds very simple, but actually it's very difficult. Like where we put this stuff, who are going to pay for it, and who are going to take care of the maintenance. So, and more importantly, we already have the technology, but how can we implement that? It's a problem. So in China, we don't have too many roof installed solar panel. I think it's a very good initiative, but we still don't have that too common. So it's a, I would say, very obvious gap here. So that's why we should to accelerate where we try to push. So it's just from my side. So I would like to listen to more local solution for renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you, and very interesting. Just as a piece of advice, I like to ask you, and on behalf of the youngsters, as we look at India-China Global South cooperation, where do you see the greatest opportunities for young innovators to collaborate on manufacturing, digital energy, affordable energy storage, or any other area?
Thank you. For the young innovator, it's definitely very important. For example, I just met one, I would say CEO from a Japanese company. Their idea is try to produce some special material, can lower the temperature but without electricity. So he worked in a very big Japanese energy company for 5 years, and then he did a research for another 5 years, and eventually he started his company in 2019. So I would say the young innovators definitely the most important stakeholders for technology, for partnership, for private sector, also for the government. And for sure the International Solar Alliance will play a very important role for that, to inspire young innovators, to empower them, to provide the knowledge, to provide the finance part, and it's very exciting. But I can see a lot of gap here. For example, many people have good idea, but it's very difficult for them to transfer that into business. So I would say I look forward more innovative solutions and support from International Solar Alliance.
Absolutely. It goes without saying they are going to play a very important role in shaping research and application of solar energy in all the member countries. So that's what one is looking for, or they are already doing it. It's not we are looking forward to. We are looking at accelerating the pace because the world required it yesterday. So we have to act very fast today. So I'll now come to Hita Lakhani, and I'm very proud to be that she studied in Terry School of Advanced Studies. So we have established a university, and with the objective of that it is the students who are going to be innovators tomorrow, and it is important to teach them sustainability. So I'm very proud that she started to venture into her own venture, the Climate Initiative India. Geeta, your journey reflects the rise of India's youth leading climate action at the grassroots. What inspired you to build the Climate Initiative, and what gaps in awareness, skills, institutional support were you trying to address?
Thank you, Dr. Dhawan, and what an honor it is to be here today with all of you, especially with Dr. Dhawan and Mr. Khanna as well. As Dr. Dhawan mentioned, I did my master's in environmental studies at Terry School of Advanced Studies, but I came to my first COP exactly 10 years ago, 2015 at COP21 in Paris, and it basically threw myself, it was by chance that happened, and I threw myself deep end into the UN negotiation space. And over the years, as I got more involved and I learned about the negotiations, I sat in the rooms, understood how geopolitics was playing out, understood how detailed the negotiations are, the text, the language, the nuances, all of that. The most visible thing was the lack of young people in the rooms. In 2017, when I came for my first intercessions, which are the technical negotiations that happen at the UN headquarters in Bonn in Germany, I was the only young person from all of Global South present in the youth constituency at that point. So that was the official mode of engagement of children and young people, and I was the only youth from the Global South at that point. So that was the representation that existed. And that sort of fueled me to try and bridge or at least demystify this space a little bit for young people in India so that they can at least understand what's happening, if not engage in that. So that led into climate education sessions. I wanted them to be UN 101 sessions, which I realized I could not do because people didn't fully understand climate change. So they became climate education sessions over time. And that has just grown. I've been involved in, I was leading the youth constituency then for 2 years through the pandemic for the COP in Glasgow. I co-founded another organization called the Youth Negotiators Academy to build capacity of young people to be part of official delegations here at COP. So this year as well, we have about 130 young negotiators in the rooms from about 70 different countries that are present and negotiating. And then step down from there to build more in India. That's always been a passion. That's always been something that I'd want to work more on, and all of the global work just kept me from doing more in country. So that's been my focus now. But I think the biggest bit that we're trying to focus on is, of course, using education, capacity building, training as a tool to, one, learn more about climate, but two, also demystify what's going on in spaces like this, bringing youth voices from the global south to international spaces and trying to build those bridges between the two.
Thank you. That's very interesting. So just a related question to this, since you're working with young people, if we look at India's energy transition, which top 3 skills people must develop to participate meaningful, whether in solar, digital energy, or climate entrepreneurship, or maybe something else? What would you like to say?
Yeah. When we talk about energy transition, somehow it always seems like a political decision, or it always seems something like a government that has to implement. So I think for a young person, it can seem something that it's not easily accessible. It's not something that you can engage in very easily, because how do you somehow get involved in the country's energy transition? That question in itself seems very, very daunting. So I think one is to be able to build understanding, so capacity building, training, how do you really engage when it comes to energy transition? How can you be a part of the solution and not just at the sidelines of it, watching the transition happen? So capacity building, I think, is key. And then from there, of course, leading on into how do we then make sure that young people can bring in their expertise. They have the right trainings, they have the right knowledge, they have the passion, as we've already spoken about. But how do we then make sure that that expertise, that passion, that willingness to fuel and do something beyond cross-question is actually made use of in the transition. So whether it's at the policy level, whether it's at the implementation level, or even on the technical expertise of things.
Thank you. That's very interesting. I'll now come to Tafodwa Chandu from Zimbabwe. You work closely with the youth network across Africa. What are the biggest barriers young people face in participating in the energy transition? And how do you think India and ISA help bridge these gaps?
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for the amazing presentations. I've learned a lot, of course, with what so many young people are actually doing globally and the amazing work that ISA is doing in trying to, educate and also fuel the energy transition. I must make it clear that young people do really want to get involved. They really want to, transition to renewable energy. But then they're facing a number of challenges, which of course include, the financing for them to be able to get involved. We're also talking about the skills, which is the major gap that ISA and TERI are also trying to, to bridge. But then what I've realized is most of these approach, they're specifically focusing on the general approach. We're talking of institutions, we're talking of, already established systems. But then if we really want to make this approach just and inclusive, then we have to go back to the marginalized communities, those that currently do not even have access to electricity, that fossil fuel power that we are saying we want to move away from. We're talking of these communities that do not have any access to this. I was privileged to travel to a number of countries in the past year where we're doing a documentary and a campaign with my organization, Climate Life, where we tried to engage and educate communities in line with climate action, renewable energy, so that they understand what's happening and they can be able to directly influence policies. And what we realized was, in as much as we are talking about solar, we are talking about climate change, these communities, they're not even aware of these major things. I mean, they don't even have electricity. They have never had electricity. They do not even have the infrastructure to even use the electricity. So how do we then come to them and say, we need to transition to renewable energy when they never even had the energy in the first place? So which is the major gap, which I feel ISA and TERI can easily bridge. You also talked about creating an online platform where people can easily learn and also be affiliated with the transition, which is a unique approach, which I believe could literally change the whole landscape when it comes to renewable energy as well. But I also feel that you should also try to come up with strategies and approaches to also include the marginalized communities, where you could provide the financing and also amplify your engagements with our governments. I can say this under record that it's quite tricky. I know it's quite tricky to engage with our governments. I mean, they have their own commitments, they have their own agendas that they want to focus on. In most cases, they tell you we do not even have the resources to focus on that. But I feel this is important, that if we directly engage these governments, and not just them, engage in these marginalized communities when it comes to elections, voting, but then even with the transition. So if we use this approach, I believe we'll be able to have a just and inclusive transition where everyone is not being left behind, but we are going with everyone, including these marginalized communities as well. So I believe ISA and TERI has a major task to bridge this gap. I'm literally amazed with the amazing progress that you've already done. To say the least, I should thank you for that amazing work. But if you amplify this, I believe we can be able to reach every young person, and we can be able to have the just, inclusive transition. I believe you already have the resources to make this a reality. So it's only a matter of time and your action as well. So thank you.
In fact, what you highlighted, it's very interesting, because what one is looking at, it's not just carbon reduction, or it's the clean energy innovations. They are not just for emission reduction, but one is looking at creating local jobs, which are essential, resilience, and perhaps community empowerment. Would you like to add more to this? Because you can visualize what kind of changes it's going to bring.
Sorry, I didn't really get that.
No, see, what we are looking at when we are looking at solar energy or energy transition, one of the major objectives is that we want to reduce CO2 emissions. But in your case and in most of the developing part of the world, it is, of course, I'll say it's more of a byproduct. Because more than that, what it is going to do, it is going to create local jobs, resilience, and perhaps community empowerment. So if you can visualize that once you have adequate energy coming from the sun, created at source, now what kind of empowerment you can visualize?
Well, trust me, a few months, last month actually, I was in Azerbaijan, where we were having the Educators Forum on, where I was representing IRENA on the just transition, and we're directly engaging with, with the educators on the approach that they're currently using in educating people and how they would want the transition of renewable energy to happen, and how it would look like when we have finally achieved that. So right now as it stands, apart from, we are saying with the current approach that we already have massive unemployment already. And we are saying there is a solution that could reduce the emissions and also create massive employment as well. So it's something that even us as young people fail to understand why our governments and our leaders are not easily or directly investing in this approach, because this is like the major solution that you need, because you're going to employ people, you're going to get the energy that we actually need. So, which is why I, again, say that AISA Interior are doing an amazing job in actually bringing this education as well to make sure that more people, they're actually engaged and they are aware of how solar can be a game changer and how we can be able to actually transition from these fossil fuels that we use. I even gave an example to a panel yesterday where I said that, are you aware that in as much as we are saying that we want to move away from fossil fuels, because generally the general people, they do not really care about what you're bringing to them. What they just want is a solution. They just want energy in their homes. So in as much as we are coming to them, our messaging as well, it has to be direct, outlining, because this is a major issue that goes beyond policy, you see. So if communities are going to influence the policy, they need to understand what they're influencing. And then again, the ball comes back to AISA and Terry in making sure that that bridge is covered, and that gap obviously gets covered.
Thank you so much. May I invite Mr. Khanna to close the session?
Thank you. I'm sorry I had to run because the US ambassador had walked in and I had to tell him that we are talking to youth. He said, no, okay, go back. Look, this is all very inspiring, and each country is very unique. And each country will find a range of solutions with the help of youth on what are the missing pieces. So, when you were talking about the solar rooftop, still not being big in China, even though China is 10 times the next country. That's a very uniquely thing about China. The young man from Tanzania was talking about people need to first understand that energy can straight away come from solar rather than waiting for the grid. And the transformative potential it can have on income. Because a lot of discussion we had in World Bank when I was there, but now in AISA too, that energy access, often people think let's connect the household, and what do people use it more for? First, mobile charging, and second, lighting. But if it is not going to lead to increase in jobs and income, you will always hit a bottleneck, and that is a role. And this, what I heard about in terms of all of you, I feel that our role in having social media channels to communicate with youth, because that's where most of you are, not in journals, not in books anymore, that is critical. And that's our challenge. Because rather than producing reports and big things that people are no longer interested, do podcasts, do 2-minute videos, do 4-minute videos, and have AI-based learning platforms where all the youth can have ideas. And then we have to connect people, like we are connecting here with Terry's help. Because an idea in Tanzania maybe can work in Nigeria, it can work in an Indian state. And what's there in Japan, probably that technology needs to come. So that's something we are really looking forward to. Keep asking questions, keep your curiosity, keep challenging all the assumptions, because you are the ones who are going to change the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was, I should say, very inspiring for, I'm sure, all the youth who are with us. As we leave this room, let's carry one message with us. The energy transition will not be delivered by technology alone. That's, of course, the most important ingredient, but not the only part. It will be delivered by people, by partnerships, and most importantly, by the passion of young minds. So it's your planet. Rather, the mistakes which we have done, you really have to correct those and ensure that this planet remains livable or even becomes better. The ignited minds of the youth are the most powerful resource on the earth, above the earth and under the earth. It was said by our late President Abdul Kalam. You might have read about him. So that is, repeatedly we say, it is youth which is going to change the world. So please become agent of making this planet a better place. Thank you.